Edgar said to the interviewer he was convinced that the thing out there wasn't a vault at
Yeah,
all.
I know what he thought.
Dr. Edgars didn't think it was designed to keep things out.
I know what he
thought
thought.
it was designed to keep something in.
Do you even understand the difficulty trying to keep a base like Fathom at the bottom of the ocean from killing everyone in it on a daily basis?
Oh my god.
Everyone hold on to something! I think whatever is on the other side of that door out there, it's not friendly. I think it's trying to get out. That, my friend, is a dire combination.
That's a bad sign.
Get under the door!
It's spreading like some kind of technological contagion. We can either stop it here or watch the world burn.
Fathom, the first season of Derelict. Listen wherever you get your podcasts, or learn more at derelictpodcast.com.
Greetings, adventurers. Today we're excited to introduce you to a new story, Dark Dice, a horror podcast that blurs the line between actual play and audio drama, where the story is determined by the roll of the dice. 6 adventurers embark on a journey into the ruinous domain of the Nameless God. They will never be the same again. One of the players is not what they seem after a doppelganger, a creature that can assume the form and voice of whatever it kills, infiltrates the team. As the players are picked off and replaced one at a time, can they figure out who the monster is before it's too late? Can you? Here's a quick example of what our show sounds like.
The shambler with the jar of liquid inside of him.
Soren Arkwright let loose an arrow that cracked the glass, passing through the spine of the creature. The shambler still managed to maintain its forward momentum, but stumbled as it eagerly tried to bite and swipe at Soren, landing near his feet. As Jeff Goldblum has now joined our cast, Dark Dice is available however you listen to podcasts.
11th Hour Audio presents Creature Feature of the Month with your master of frights, Owen McEwen.
Greetings, listeners, and thank you for joining us at the 11th hour. Greetings, listeners. This next story is something a little different. It began as a piece of artwork. Artist and illustrator Vince Dorse has created a poster that's laid out in a kind of narrative timeline. To showcase the poster, Vince has crafted a video that details his art process and contains a narrative version of the abridged tale, guiding the viewer through the stunning visuals. So why are we sharing it here? Well, the story is a classic piece of American horror. We're certain you'll recognize it. And it's narrated and sound designed by yours truly, with help from the Uber Duo Horsin' Around sound effects pack. Check the show notes for links to the video and Vince's shop in case you'd like a poster for yourself. Now, button up your coats against the chill and journey with us to the quaint little town of Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane's Journey Through Sleepy Hollow. Inspired by the tale by Washington Irving. Illustrations by Vince Dorse. Deep in the Hudson Valley, along the banks of the Tappan Zee, and just beyond the village of Tarrytown, there is a shadowy glen known to the residents there as Sleepy Hollow. And into this drowsy little hamlet one autumn day wandered an itinerant schoolmaster by the name of Ichabod Crane. Tall and exceedingly lank, Ichabod was well-read, cultured, and could hold forth on subjects both worldly and otherworldly. As Ichabod made himself at home in the hollow, he grew acquainted with its many inhabitants, such as Katrina Van Tassel, the town beauty, and her boisterous suitor, Abraham Van Brunt, known to the locals at the tavern as Brom Bones.
I don't like the looks of that one.
Ichabod spent his mornings imparting wisdom and warnings to the town's school children, and whiled away his twilights dreaming up ways to win the hand of the fair Katrina. But his nights were spent hurrying through the dark countryside, jumping at the sound of every tree, toad, and screech owl, and always looking over his shoulder for the town's resident spirit, the ghost of the Headless Horseman. But nothing could keep him home on All Hallows Eve, the night of the Van Tassel's harvest celebration. Even superstitious Ichabod would brave a headless ghost for the warmth of community, the bounty of the fall feast, and a chance to dance with Katrina. And dance they did, with great enthusiasm, much to the consternation of Brom Bones, who had grown weary of the gangly schoolmaster and suspicious of his intentions with his Katrina. And so Brom devised a plan. When the guests all gathered round the hearth at midnight for hot cider and ghost stories, Brom spun a tale about the Headless Horseman so terrifying that you could hear Ichabod's knees knocking from across the room. This, of course, made Ichabod's ride home through the dark even more chilling. Trembling from the October cold, as well as his dread over the long journey home through the shadowy woods, Ichabod was suddenly aware of another rider on the path.
Who's that?
As he approached and passed the mysterious rider, he realized with a start that it was the Headless Horseman himself, rearing up on his black steed, holding his own head aloft, and cackling like a mad ghoul. Ichabod spurred his borrowed horse, Gunpowder, urging it to run faster, trying to escape the spirit, but the ghost gave chase. At every turn, Ichabod could hear the ghost's laughter and the heavy hooves of its horse thundering on the path just behind him. As the tree line broke and the moon illuminated his path, Ichabod remembered part of Brom's tale. That if one could cross the bridge by the old Dutch church before the horseman laid his hands upon you, you might just live to see the morning. And so Ichabod yelled and flailed atop Gunpowder, making haste for the bridge. But the horseman, perhaps knowing his intentions, hurled his disembodied head at Ichabod, cackling with terrifying delight. The next morning, after Ichabod's borrowed plow horse found its way back to its owner, the townsfolk went searching for the schoolmaster. But all they could find, at the far end of the bridge by the old Dutch church, were the pedagogue's hat and the remnants of a shattered jack-o'-lantern. And that is the tale of Ichabod Crane and his journey into, through, and finally out of Sleepy Hollow.
Do you dig science fiction? Then get ready for the hardest-hitting sci-fi you've ever heard. The Galactic Football League series by #1 New York Times bestselling author Scott Sigler is now a free, unabridged podcast. It's Star Wars meets Peaky Blinders meets Ted Lasso. The GFL is a star-spanning, high-action, high-stakes, coming-of-age story set against the backdrop of a professional football league 700 years in the future. Follow the journey of Quentin Barnes, a gifted athlete who must travel from his backwater system to the galaxy's sprawling empires in his quest to be the best there's ever been. But he needs to watch his back as organized crime runs every franchise, fixing games and assassinating rival players. That's the Galactic Football League series. Search for Scott Sigler, Sigler, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want a person dead, you call a hitman. If you want a monster dead, you call Lincoln Franks. But you better be able to pay the price he asks, because Lincoln doesn't work for free. Pay to slay, bitches. Slay Season 2 is the current season of Scott Sigler Slices, a fiction podcast with dark tales hacked from the mind of a #1 New York Times bestselling author. Slay is a foul-mouthed, monster-killing, drug-addled anti-hero story that's John Wick meets Buffy meets Breaking Bad. Slay Season 1 is complete and waiting for you in the feed, as is Scott's short story anthology, Blood is Red. Scott Sigler Slices is the world's longest-running fiction podcast, 19 years and counting, with new episodes dropping every Sunday. Get Scott Sigler Slices on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.